Hey, everybody, this is Elon Fong, the co-host of What's Hot in the Strip Clubs. We are here now with the cutting room floor of Panda Off the Charts. So in our most recent interview with Shannon Larkin, the drummer of GODSMACK, there was so much great interview material, we couldn't put it all in the original podcast. So here's some stuff that was on the cutting room floor. The questions are from Exotic Dancer Publications, and so many great answers, we didn't want to have it not be available to you. So here is our sort of secondary interview with Shannon Larkin. And here we go. Yeah, I think you'll find this fascinating. All right, Shannon. So here's question number one for you. It's hard to believe, but GODSMACK has been around now for over 25 years. What inspires the band now, musically, compared to when it first started? And just for your reference, Shannon has been in GODSMACK since 2002.
Yeah, Sully has been, if you look lyrically, always inspired by true life. Like every song is pretty much about what he's going through in his life. And that's from Keep Away all the way up to Surrender. And so, it's been about, real life experience is what inspires him to write the lyrics. Musically, we just get together as four guys and try and make cool jams.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Does the band believe that full-length albums are still the standard? Or, as some have suggested, will it be more about singles or EPs in the future?
Well, the unfortunate truth is it is about singles and EPs, I feel, now. But GODSMACK still makes full-length records. At least this final one is made to be played as a body of work in which you experience valleys and you experience peaks. And it should be a roller coaster ride of a record, like my favorite records are like that. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, You put it on, you want to hear the whole thing, man. It's a part of a group of songs. So there's the answer.
So Shannon, when you have such a wide back catalog, how difficult is it to put together set lists in order to satisfy old school fans, yet also being able to play new music that the band is excited about?
Well, it's not really hard because we don't really pick our set because we're an American radio band. So we've always let radio dictate what the fans like. If a song is a hit, we know our fans like it. They want to hear it live. So basically, with the radio dictates our set list, for our fans, because if we don't play certain songs, we can't get to the bus without 20 people saying, "Why didn't you play I Stand Alone?"
Right.
So basically, our fans pick our set list from our radio hits.
This is a follow-up for me. Is there a song the band loves to play that isn't one of those songs you guys still play just for yourselves? Maybe. Is there one?
Yeah, we do Rocky Mountain Wave, our own version
great
of it.
Cover.
That's a great version.
That's great cover. I played that one too. We talked about the other one in the show. Okay. So aside from your time in GODSMACK, what are some of your favorite memories of your time in bands like Amen, Ugly Kid Joe, and Wrathchild, aka Souls at Zero? Obviously, there's a big difference between playing clubs and arenas, and you've done both throughout your career.
Yeah, I have so many great memories over the last 38 years of making records with all those bands that for me to sit there and try and grab a memory out of the air right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
I am so grateful and appreciative to each band and each path that my career has taken, because each one I felt has been necessary for my humility and just the way I want to walk around and present myself as a drummer and as a human, as a father, as a musician, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So every memory that I have is a positive one, even the negative ones.
Hey, welcome back to part 2 of Panda Off the Charts, the cutting room floor. Here's the final part of our interview with Shannon Larkin from GODSMACK. All right, Shannon, what drummers inspired you when you were growing up? Who got you to play drums in the first place?
Well, it was the whole music inspiration was probably in about 1975, and Kiss. It was Kiss.
Ah, okay.
But I didn't hear Kiss and want to be a drummer. What happened? I mean, in fact, me and my friend Terry Carter dressed up for Halloween, and I was Ace Frehley as a kid.
Sure.
And then, but what happened was my sister would hear me jamming music in my room, and my older sister. And she came in one day and said, your music is weak. Listen to this, and gave me Rush. She gave me Rush Hemispheres.
Ooh.
There you go.
When my young brain heard Rush Hemispheres, for some reason, it was the drums. I'm like, oh my God, listen to the drums. Again, I wasn't thinking I want to do that. That's me. I was just intrigued by what that man was playing. I didn't even know he wrote the lyrics. I just knew that that's something that caught my ear. And then I swear, and I still have that record, by the way, that it was on red vinyl. And my sister, Shelly, she wrote her name, Shelly Larkin, on the record, because back then you take a record to a party and you want your record stolen, right?
Yeah, totally.
I still have that in my collection, by the way. And
that's dope.
I wore that red record out, and after I don't know how long, but just loving it and knowing all the words, I remember. I went back to my sister and I said, you're right. My music's weak. This is the best thing I've ever heard. What you got? I go, what you got next for me, right?
Nice.
She hands me Zeppelin 2.
Ooh.
And when I heard the drums on that, I was like, that's it. I want, and I swear to you guys that that's when I went to my parents and asked for my Christmas present to be a drum set, So when people ask that question, and it's probably the most repeated answer to that question, but it would have to be Neil Peart, John Bonham.
So we keep hearing from guys like Gene Simmons that rock is dead. That's not true, right? I mean, what newish hard rock bands do you think will move the rock genre forward into the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I do not believe rock is dead, firstly. But with that said, I don't really know much new music. Because I do feel that rock, particularly hard rock, metal, thrash metal, is a young person's music, because I remember and still have, like I said, my record collections, and I have every Venom, Sodom, Slayer, Metallica, Motorhead, Saxon, Priest, you name it. I still have all my vinyl. And
that's awesome.
Some of it, particularly the black metal stuff, isn't as nice on my ears anymore. And to some, like when I listen to Morbid Angel, even sometimes I go, wow, and I can still see the beauty and the violence in it, but it doesn't warm my heart and make me want to go kill like it used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's just not as, so what happened is so I'll be now, I over the last probably 5-6 years, it's turned into the stuff that I started listening to before I found metal, which was all the stuff that my parents turned me on to, which was classic rock and blues and the 60s stuff and doo-wop. I've just been listening to all that stuff. So as far as new rock bands, but that said, rock isn't dead. Like I know that there's new bands out there, like I'll just say one, Motionless in White, because I happened to see them at a festival, and it was super aggressive and heavy music, but it was a little different than when I was growing up. They had keyboards and stuff, but and I thought, wow, this is rock is not dead. It's still, I think it has to be super aggressive, and therefore you have to be young and pissed off about something. That's why when people say about Godsmack, our records aren't as heavy as it used to be. Well, guess what? Because we're not angry young dudes full of piss and vinegar anymore,
Thank you. All right, man, here's your chance. Strip Joints is promoting the song Surrender to adult nightclubs all across the United States and the world. Why should DJs, entertainers, and clubs add this track to their playlist? Why should they play it in their strip clubs?
Well, because you can move your butt to it. It's got a funky beat, and you can funk out to it. But,
it is groovy.
And I tell you what, though, it's right from the very start when we heard this riff and we started playing it. It's got a high energy. It's got a super high energy to it. It definitely gets you on the one right away. You know what I mean? My verse beat is kind of eclectic, but as far as the breakdown, it's got a nice breakdown for them to shake to. I think it'd be a great track in any club.
Agreed. All right. And finally, the big one, the fun one. Do you have any fun or interesting strip club stories from your years on the road? Any favorite clubs in particular?
Well, the best, when I first joined the band Godsmack, we decided we were starting the writing. We wrote Straight Out of Line and Standalone up north. And then we kind of ran into a let's get the hell out of town kind of vibe. And so we found a house in Miami and moved there to continue writing and living in Miami, which must have a strip club on every block. I mean, there were so many of them. And Sully and I were like the toxic twins back then, man. And like we would literally sit out by the pool in Miami, and we'd be writing songs all day and then drinking and going to strip clubs all night. And and it was the coolest thing but I guess the funniest story, and I can say this stuff. I've been sober for a long time, but I used to not be so sober. And so I have two funny strip club stories. One, Sully and I are in a strip club, totally trashed, and we see Stone Gossard, right?
Yeah.
And he plays a little band called Pearl Jam, right?
Yeah, he does.
So here's this dude, and he's a legend to us and to everybody. He should be. He's Stone Gossard. So,
yeah.
And so anyway, I was really sloppy again that night. And I guess, so the next day I remember Sully and I, it's noon, we're waking up to go to the studio to write again. And so he's making coffee and his cell phone rings. And I hear him pick it up and go, hello. And he's hungover, and so sometimes, he's got the dark cloud around him, and he's like, hello, Stone who? He said. And I immediately went, Stone who? And then you saw Sully go, oh, hi, Stone. Hey, yeah. So, and then I see him go, huh? Oh, no, he's alive. He's fine today. The great Stone Gossard was calling to say, hey, man, is your drummer okay? And then the next story about that crazy strip club era was, I guess we had started the party somewhere else at the house or at the studio or wherever. But by the time I get there, and clubs, by the way, there in Miami, they're open 24/7. So, so we pull up to the club at like 4 a.m, and our security guard, TC, is literally carrying me over his shoulder. And we come up to the door, but the bouncers knew us, we've been there for
a few times,
weeks,
once or twice.
So he comes up, and I remember Sully saying to the guy's like, oh man, you're a drummer. And he said, he's just a little sloppy tonight. He'll be all right. And they let us in. A lot of people have stories about being carried out the strip bar. I got carried into the strip bar.
That's the beginning of a legendary night, I have a feeling.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so we end up, and this is true, we end up in the driveway. And this is, by the way, kids, or anyone watching this, do not drive drunk. It's the dumbest thing ever. But we did and somehow survived, right? So we drove, and he had this Ford F-150 giant, one of those trucks, that you got to grab a hold of a handle to pull yourself up on. It was literally a monster truck. And like we had that for years. And when we got back to the house that we were renting, we sat and we were listening to Led Zeppelin. I'll never forget it.
That's awesome.
And we were sitting watching the sunrise in the truck. For some reason, we didn't go in the house. We pulled up in the drive. So we're in the driveway of the truck. And for some reason, and one of the Zeppelin song came on, and I just went, and I boofed like that. And I spider webbed the windshield of his truck. He's like, dude, you just broke my effing windshield. And dude, and this is true. You know how they say, I don't know, like the martial artist guys that can, punch through cinder blocks, and they don't have I did not have I had not a mark, not a bump, not a red mark, but yet I smashed his windshield. No red mark, nothing. So there was some kind of good power going on at that strip club. Strip bar.
There we go. Please do not headbutt your favorite stripper. Please do not headbutt your favorite stripper. Thank you. So there you have it. What a great couple of questions we got there from Exotic Dance for Publications. I don't think I've ever been carried into a strip club on someone's shoulders. Have you? Hey, be sure to check us out in that interview at What's Hot in the Strip Clubs. That's Panda Off the Charts with Shannon Larkin from GODSMACK. And we drop a new podcast every week. So go check us out on every major podcast platform. What's Hot in the Strip Clubs.